junkies, to another Freedom Junkie Radio. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know that the discussions we have are about creating the world that we live in and creating a free world and having more freedom in our lives than we even know we're not having. A lot of the times we've been programmed in having less freedom in our lives and we don't even know it. And we're going to be discussing, I have Nelson and Alison Mak on today, and we're going to be discussing one of my very favorite topics when it comes to bringing more freedom into our world. And it's freedom from the birth industry. I love this topic so much that I wrote a book about it about 10 years ago called Birthright. You can get it on Amazon. We've been trained throughout the years to think that birth is like what Hollywood says, that birth, what we don't even know as women what it is. And then once you experience a natural birth, a home birth, you realize what's been taken from us. And the layers are peeling off and more people are learning. I'm so excited. I want to welcome Nelson and Alison to Freedom Junkie Radio. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice
Thank
to
you
be
for having us.
Yeah, nice to be on, Betsy.
Okay, so you guys contacted me because y'all recognized I was a friendly when it comes to getting the information out that y'all are getting out right now. So the first thing that I want to throw out there is that you guys had a natural birth, and we're going to talk about that. I don't know the details, but y'all have gotten so inspired that you have created a natural birth symposium, which is going to be happening in March in Austin, Texas at Casa de Luz. And so that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about. And then I want to go into what you guys, because it's been 13 years since I gave birth at home and stuck it to the industry, like this is something mammals do. Yeah. And so you guys are more up to date on what's going on in the hospitals and what you can avoid by not going there. And I don't want to give the hospitals a bad rap because 7% of the time, if that's still the case, 10 years ago, 7% of the time, home births need to transport to the hospital, whether that's for the mother or the child. And thank modern medicine for everything they can do when that 7% of the time is the case, and you need to be there and they can help you. They can give you a cesarean, they can give you what you need, but 93% of the time we don't need the hospital. So welcome again. And I want to give a little bit of an introduction to you. Nelson's story is interesting. You've been in IT and tech for 10 years, and then you had a vaccine injury that led you to have eczema and issues that you needed some natural, like you recognized that the natural way of treating it was better. And I'm assuming it was during that time that you met Alison, because she was already a nature girl like me. She does Reiki and yoga, and you've been on a vegan path for a while. I haven't done that. And you had studied acupuncture and walked across Spain all by yourself. I mean, like cool human beings met each other, and now we have this. So after that short introduction, let us tell us a little bit about why you guys created the Natural Birth Symposium that's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go, or do you want me to?
I mean, it was just such an inspiring experience, and also very empowering. I took it upon myself to do a lot of research before I even got pregnant. I was doing a ton of research on home birth and just all things natural pregnancy, natural birth. So I was, in a sense, already kind of becoming obsessed with it. And Nelson was just the perfect match for me. Totally on board, equally as excited about all of it as I was, which is awesome. Yeah. And I wish, that more women had that experience, because it really was immensely beneficial to us as a family and to me as a woman, to have my husband be so on board with everything that I wanted to do. I didn't have to like twist his arm into doing home birth. So the whole experience was amazing.
Yeah, we were inspired to do this symposium because the more we learned about the process of birth and how medicalized it has become, it just started to blow our minds. Like, we just started going down the rabbit hole. We were going deeper and deeper. And then we found alternative solutions, right? Herbs, even positions of giving birth, right? Just moving around will help the process of birth along.
Getting chiropractic care.
Right, getting chiropractic care, acupuncture. I mean, there's all these non-invasive solutions that are available that we just don't know about. And I personally came into this birth process not knowing a thing about home birth. Zero. I was totally indoctrinated, by the media and everything. And I was like, when women give birth, I have to rush her to the hospital in my car. So I got to get my car ready and make sure it's all souped up and everything. And we got to get her there in under 10, 15 minutes, right? That's how it goes. And then I just wait outside in the hallway while she's in the doctor's room. God knows what is happening to her. And that's the way it goes. But once you start to sit down and think about the whole process of birth, we start to realize that humans have been giving birth for thousands of years. And we've never had this pharmaceutical medical system up until maybe 200 years ago, right? So for the rest of the rest of eternity, we've been giving birth naturally. And then you start to think about, okay, women's bodies are literally designed to give birth. Everything is there. You don't need more stuff. You don't need this or that. They try to, the whole birth industry has turned into also another way that they're sucking money from you, right? Everything that they say you need, when you, and the way they say you need it is because, oh, you will need this because this might happen and it'll be bad. And they instill fear in you. And they're basically manipulating you into buying this product because you feel now that you need it. And if you don't, you're a bad mother.
Well, and it's amazing how just a couple of generations and we can forget everything.
Right, right.
I mean, we used to know how to give birth. I say it's like giving a birth, like, look at all the other mammals, horses and walruses and
right.
dogs, they give birth. We give birth. We're meant to, just like you said. Exactly. And I want to interject real quick that I'm so blessed that my sister-in-law invited me to her home birth. I wouldn't have had a clue. And I thought, this is weird. I'm going to a birth. That's not weird. It's not weird at all. Everyone should go to a birth because it completely changes you. And you never get the opportunity. No one ever invites you to their birth. But so we went. And I walked in and I am not a hospital person. I am the opposite. Like you won't find me in a hospital unless I'm literally dying and that's going to save me to be there. So, but I was like you, we have been totally programmed to think just like you described so beautifully, that you rush to the hospital and you have your baby there. That's the only way to do it. And you know what? That's the last thing you should do. And so I went into this home. It was quiet. There was beautiful, quiet music playing. It was dark. There were candles. There was a midwife's assistant in the kitchen making soup, like making tea. There was no screaming blood. It was the opposite of a hospital. I mean, it smelled good. It was so lovely. She was on a king size bed asking if she should push. And I took it all in and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. You can give birth like this. This was, years before I gave birth. I knew at that moment, that was going to be for me. And and then just like you were saying, Alison, the natural way of having a pregnancy too. One of my questions that we need to talk about is how do we reach people in that tiny window of time between when they're thinking about getting pregnant, and because if you don't reach people up until then, they're just going to go the route that we've been programmed to go.
Right.
So that's an interesting topic. But so I'm so excited that you're doing this, because I was so passionate. That the fact that they've stolen this rite of passage for women, it's not like Hollywood. It is probably the greatest rite of passage that women go through, and men allowing their women to, Alison, you said that he was on board, and absolutely, if your husband is like, nope, go into the hospital, there's really nothing you can do. You have to both be on board there.
Right.
And for you to surrender, Nelson, and allow her body to do what it was meant to do, not go into a place of fear. We all turn into adults at that moment. It's like, here we go. So anyway, you had this idea to share this with the world and create a symposium. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, with everything that's going on in the world right now, we wanted to figure out the best way to make an impact. And I don't think that in this world, things like, Ukraine, for example, right? How they're funneling our money away from all the taxpayers. They're literally sucking money out of the taxpayers and sending to Ukraine. I mean, just things like that, right? The whole transgender agenda, everything that's going on, I feel it stems from a place of trauma, and trauma within all of us. And the best way I believe that we can make a difference is to help educate and inform other women about the alternative solution that you have for birth, and giving birth to awakened human beings, right? Trauma-free awakened human beings that come to this earth who are mentally, physically, and spiritually prepared to take on the challenge that's coming for them, right? And in that sense, being trauma-free, you're able to actually use critical thinking and then take the steps to change the world. I don't think that we're going to change the world in our lifetime, but maybe in Madison's lifetime, it'll start to shift in that direction. I feel the shift already happening. So I think it's time to put our money where our mouth is, right? And to start taking action, because I also think that's an issue, is that a lot of people have been pacified by idols, right? They think this person's going to save me, or if we vote this politician in, they're going to save us, and blah, blah, blah. Well, the only person that can save you is yourself. If we all started taking action towards the world that we want to live in, right, it would be a better place almost overnight. So, that's why with this Sacred Birth Symposium, we're doing that. We're taking the steps and we're leading the way, and we want to raise other people up. We want to provide a platform for birth professionals. It's a symposium created by parents for parents, right? We're not birth professionals. We don't come from the industry, and we're not selling anything. What we're doing is we're throwing something that's catered for moms who want to learn more about alternative health, dads who want to learn more about alternative health and want to figure out a better way to give their child a better life. I mean, this is the ultimate advantage you can give to your child, literally, from the start.
This is amazing. So I have this vision of, these people that have been controlling the world in a way, and manipulating us, and we've been programmed, to think these certain things, because then we purchase the products. We just fall right in line. And if we all, like you just said, take our little pickaxes to it, if there's a million of us that do what we can do, we can bring it down. And my last interview was with Jim Gale, and he has a theory that if we all just plant food in half of our yard, we take down the tyranny, right?
Exactly.
I love that you are doing it, thinking in terms of having trauma-free human beings coming from a place of a natural birth. And I hadn't even thought of that, starting from the very beginning. And so you're at this symposium. How are we going to get okay, I'm going to answer my own question here. I wanted to say, how are we going to get the people that need to come? But you know what? I think that COVID did something for humanity, a lot of things for humanity. And one was people realized, I don't want to go to the hospital.
Yep.
10 years ago, when I was sounding out this, it was hard to reach people, but now people are like, dude, I don't want to go see where sick people are. I don't want to go have to wear a mask. I don't want to go have to, like deal with people who don't understand what I understand, that our bodies heal themselves and stuff like that. So you might have a larger audience than I think is the audience when it comes to natural birth.
Right. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right, Betsy. It was a blessing and a curse, right, for humanity. So with the symposium, that's why we're keeping it very intimate to only 100 people. So there will only be 100 attendees and only 100 tickets sold for the first symposium. And that's because we want, women who are on the fence or are seeking alternative solutions or have just woken up to the fact that, oh, wait, I don't want to go to the hospital. What are my options, right? You can come to this symposium. It's a 2-day symposium. So just 2 days out of your entire year, you can spend at this symposium and you will learn everything you need. So you will get all the information. You will get to learn from speakers and professionals who have been in this industry for decades and have made their life, pushing a holistic birth experience, changing people's lives. And then you will walk away with a resource list and a companion guide that will help you through the whole process. So you don't feel you're alone, and I think the number one issue I hear from women who are hesitant about home birth is that they're afraid, right? It comes back to that fear again, right? And we address the fear at the conference, right? We will talk about all the taboo topics that people and doctors and the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry are afraid of discussing, circumcisions, interventions, home birth, like what's at a home birth, birth emergencies, right? Because we know that, yes, emergencies always happen. And you mentioned, right, you said it was about 7% rate, based on actual statistics from 2004 to 2009, it is about 10 to 7%, right, of completed home births. So meaning home births that actually completed at home and weren't sent to the hospital. So it's very safe, right? That's the first thing that people need to understand is home birth is very safe. And literally our bodies are designed to do that.
Will you clarify the statistic you just said? I didn't quite understand. Over 90%.
Sorry, so
right?
Yes. So based on a study, so there's a organization called MANA. Have you heard about it?
No.
It's I didn't either, and I was just put onto it by one of our speakers, Monica Smith, and she's very she's like me in a sense. She's very data driven. So me coming from a tech background and product management, that's what I used to do. And that's why I know so much about the data collection schemes and all the things, because we collected data and we analyzed data and we use that to drive decisions through the organization. So MANA is, it stands for, I think, Midwives Alliance of Association of North America. And they conducted a study, which is actually one of the largest studies to date, of 17,000 women between the years of 2004 and 2009. And they did surveys and everything, and they got data and compiled it all together. And based on that, they determined that home births are safe, right? And that there's a high rate of completed home birth. So the actual statistic is 89.1%. So close to 90% of home births were completed. That means they went all the way from the start at home all the way to completion in the end, and we're safe, right? So that's the actual statistic of home births. And based on that, right, we can say that you have a high chance, versus when you go into the hospital. I just looked up this statistic, and you can look it up too on the CDC website. You have about an average of 30% of getting a C-section when you go into the hospital. So 1 in 3 women are getting C-sections when they go into the hospital. That's an extremely high rate.
And let's be clear too. I don't know what, 10 years ago, the statistic was that home births were about, I get homeschooling and home birth mixed up. We do both. Homeschool is like 3% of people homeschool. How many percentage of people home birth? Not many.
I'm not sure what the actual percentages are.
It's not 10%.
It's probably very low.
Yeah, right? I think it's like 4 or 5% of people. So we're talking about the vast majority of people are going to the hospital.
Totally. Yeah.
And a third of them are getting cut open.
A third of them are getting cut open, right? And this is where you start to dig deeper down the rabbit hole, right? Is because, okay, why did they need the C-section in the first place, right? Because back say 1,000 years ago, right, when we didn't have all this stuff, were they cutting women and sewing them up? Like was that happening? Were they administering anesthesia, back then? I don't think so, right? And so then the question starts to surface, like, why do we need C-sections? What's the purpose, right? And there's tons of studies and tons of people scratching their heads wondering, why is there such a high rate of, infection and disease in advanced society? Like when you compare an advanced society, like say the USA, a very developed country, to Africa, right? You have a very high rate of disease and all that stuff. And you start to wonder, okay, why is that? Well, when you shine that same light on the C-section, you're like, okay, why is there such a high rate of C-sections? And maybe you compare it to somewhere like Africa, where a woman sometimes has, I think the average is like 5 to 6 kids, right, in Africa, and Africa has the highest, has one of the highest rates of, ratio of children to women, right? So you start to wonder, what is the C-section for? And usually, from what I understand, a C-section is done because there's no way for a woman to push the child out vaginally, because say there's some complication or something happens, or maybe the baby stops moving and the doctor says, we have to get this out now, right? And then it's a whole rabbit hole, but and it'll take forever if we go down it. But some of these problems that are caused that require a C-section can be solved by just literally switching position, right? And then you learn that when a mother is on her back giving birth, right, with her legs spread out like this, it's probably the worst possible position you can have to give birth, because when you do that, instinctively you're thinking, if I spread my legs out like this, it's going to be easier for the baby to come out, right? But it's not. Right, it's not what we're taught. And when I learned from the midwife that actually standing up and crossing and putting your knees together actually opens it up more, so the baby can pop out easier, right?
Well, so you're just making all these things fire for me. I with my first child, they would have opened me up in the hospital. And right. So a lot of things happen. Women need to understand and know, if we can reach anyone who's pregnant right now or considering being pregnant, once they get you in the hospital, the goal is to get the IV in you, because if they can get the IV in you, then you're stuck. Yeah. And the best thing you can do when you're giving birth is move around. Like you're saying, walk around, squat down, hang from a tree, and so my midwife recognized exactly what you're saying. Every time I laid down, she couldn't hear his heart tones anymore. The heartbeat, right. She couldn't hear, his heartbeat was going away. Right. But when I sat up, so instantly in the hospital, if they hear that the heart tones are going down, get that baby right now. I would have
Exactly.
been one of those people. Okay. But she also, since we were at home and she really wanted to complete this home birth, every time I stood up or sat up, the heart tones came back. So she said, girl, you're going to have to stay upright. So I went and put the toilet seat lid down and sat on the toilet seat upright because I'd been walking around. I was tired. And she said to me, we need to go ahead and have this baby. You need to work to have this baby. You need to be walking around. You need to be moving. We need to get this baby out, because if you don't, then you're going to end up transporting. Yep. And so, there's so many things that when you were just talking that just fired off for me about how we're pushed into this place of fear, and every pregnant woman has fearful moments because it's the unknown. You don't know what's about to happen. You don't even know who is about to come into your life. You don't, it's this totally unknown surrender, place of complete surrender. And if someone pushes you into a place of fear, you just go right there. And if some group of authorities are standing there with white coats and they say, I just lost your video. There you are. And they say, you need to do this. You need an advocate. You need a strong advocate if you're in the hospital. There are so many things we could talk about here, but what I want women to go away with is that, like you said, birth is a safe thing to do. And if you're at home and it starts to get a little bit iffy, then you have the hospital.
Right.
And just realize you have to have studied a little bit about what happens in the hospital. When I was at this point in my life, my cousin was also pregnant and giving birth, and she planned on doing a natural birth in the hospital, which you can do. Right. But it is hard because they want to get that IV in you, and those nurses want to knock you out and make you not feel anything because they don't want to hear you moaning and
right.
And whatever you do, you don't want an IV in there, because once you get an IV in you, you can't roll around and, like you said, squatting down. Oh, I want to tell this story real quick. I heard this and this inspired me so much. Long before I gave birth, I knew a girl in North Carolina. She was 16. I'd known her since she was like 13. And I asked a friend of mine how she was doing. And they said, oh, she had a baby. And I was like, she had a baby? She's 16. And they said, yeah. And I was like, well, what, who's the dad? They're like, well, I don't think the dad's around. And I'm like, well, and this was a girl who lived out in the woods and had nothing. And I said, what'd she do? And they said, well, she just squatted down and gave birth in the woods. And I'm like, I remember thinking, you can do that? You can squat down and give birth? And I remembered thinking, because I was in my 20s when I heard this story, her name was Elizabeth. And I was thinking, you go, Elizabeth. You just taught me deeply that I can squat down and give birth. Mm-hmm. We all can. We can all squat down and give birth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
the
amazing.
idea of going to the hospital never crossed her mind. Like, I'm sure she never even went to a doctor. I never had an ultrasound. There's so much to talk about. Keep going.
Yeah, this is a very deep topic that is not discussed, right? And we were also just talking about that this morning. Like, some of us who have had a transformational experience, we sometimes feel bad about talking about it with other people because maybe they had a traumatic experience or they didn't have a good experience, and we don't want to diminish their experience, right? But at the same time, we can't diminish our experience and at the same time, we're also robbing them of new information that they could be using to change their lives. So
yeah, it's a very interesting place to be like the woman who's on the natural path. And I mean, to me, that feels normal, but to the rest of the world, that's alternative, that's like taboo and dangerous or whatever, they think it is. But I just found it really interesting that of all the women I grew up with, of all the friends I ever had, not a single one of them had a home birth or even a midwife, and I was the first one to do it. And that was just like mind blowing to me. And I will say, I actually did have one close friend who, this was her third birth or her third pregnancy. She was 8 weeks ahead of me in her pregnancy. And for each of her births, she had progressively gotten more and more natural. And so for this third birth, she was planning a home birth. So it was really cool for us to be able to bond over that together. My first birth, her third birth, both going down the home birth route. But that was the first friend that I knew of, of all the childhood friends I had and people I grew up with, like no one else was doing this.
You are going to inspire by being. We can't change other people. We can only change ourselves. And by being that, we can get up on our soapboxes and talk until we're blue in the face. But unless someone's ready to shift and hear. So I applaud you for doing what you're doing, because this is interesting too. I heard when I first started homeschooling, I heard from a veteran homeschool mom that people aren't going to want to hear about it because it challenges the decisions they've already made. And so like if they already sent their kids to school, which 97% of people do, you represent a decision that could have been made that's possibly could have been better, and they can't, that breaks them, that's cognitive dissonance. So they have to go, you're wrong. You're doing the wrong thing. And that's a hard thing for people like us who walk the edge of what is definitely not normal and out of the box. And so I hadn't really thought of that because I'm so into the home birth. Like I inspired many of my friends, and I think you will too, just by having done it and talking about it. People are interested. They really are. And so one of my very, very best friends in this whole world had 2 home births because she recognized it was a possibility. So I'm so glad you're doing it. Don't be in fear of stepping on the toes of the majority. Bless all of our hearts. We've all been programmed,
Right. And we don't want to step on the toes, and we want to help you have a better experience, right? This event actually is for you. It's for those people who are seeking more information. And, if there's anything you take away from what we're talking about and this symposium and even this podcast, is that just ask questions. Why is it wrong to ask a question? Like when we all went to college, they said, there are no dumb questions, right? The professors wanted you to ask questions. So now why in the real world can we not ask questions, right? And we can question everything, right? Because you never know what you find. So, this all came because we started questioning stuff. Alison and I both started questioning stuff. She was more on the rebel bandwagon than I was, but I completely flipped my worldview. I mean, I definitely had a crisis in 2020 because, just so many things surfaced, right? Like the COVID stuff and then the vaccine stuff. And then, realizing, so I've had eczema and asthma all my life, and my parents have always told me that. And they've spent thousands of dollars on trying to treat the eczema, and no pharmaceutical medical person ever told me what it was. And because of what happened in 2020, I realized, wow, I've actually been vaccine injured my entire life, not from eczema and asthma, and that started me on this path of questioning everything, and look where we are now. So, it's been quite a journey, but the Sacred Birth Symposium is just the start for us. Like, we don't plan for this to be a one-off event. We want this to turn into a platform and a center point for the community. It's an event, targeted at moms who are seeking alternative solutions, parents, right? Moms and dads. But if you're a birth professional and you want to come and learn more, or you're a budding birth professional, right? And you want to come and learn more, and you want to come and network with women, and possibly get some clients. I mean, this is the best way to do it, right? In person, because someone can see you, can hear you, and can feel you, right? I think that's probably the most important part, is the feeling your vibes and feeling if they're a good fit for you. So, we're really hosting this event for everyone involved. And you know what, if you're in the medical industry and you want to come learn about this too, or you want to come ask questions and question us, I mean, by all means, we would love to have you there, because these are the kind of discussions I want to have. And maybe we're wrong about some things, right? I totally admit, like, we could be wrong, but I just haven't seen that yet.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, we can all be wrong. That's how we learn to choose new things. Okay, so you're only going to have 100 people there. This is news to me. Is it going to be available to people online?
So for the online thing, we're definitely considering offering something. It will not be streamed online, because we really want you to be there in person, right? I want to stress that this is an in-person event, because I don't feel like text messaging or phone calls or anything virtual is a proper way of communicating. I think video calls can definitely tread the line.
It's closer.
It's closer, right? But like, the way you're going to get the most out of the information is if you attend in person.
Mm-hmm.
And we also wanted to focus on the Austin area, because when you're looking for a birth professional, you're looking for someone local, right? You're looking for someone who can help you and can be there possibly, and you can go see. So our goal is
it's also going to be an interactive event,
right?
Like,
right.
we're having Q&A at the end of every speaker's talk, so the audience has the opportunity to ask their questions that are on their hearts and minds, and get an answer right then and there. We're also having some interactive demonstrations, so it's not the type of event that you can get the most out of it just from watching a live stream.
Right.
So,
however, I will add though that we are planning something for people who are not able to attend the conference.
Okay.
So if you're not able to buy a ticket, like, we will figure out a way to help you, because a lot of the information that's going to be in the conference will be made available to everyone for a small fee.
mm-hmm.
So we're still working on that offer, but it'll come definitely after the conference.
Okay, so who do you want to buy those 100 tickets? You've said from women who want to know more about, who are interested in the birth and natural birth, to professionals who want to know more. So
right.
Anyone who wants to know more can come.
Dads, we would love to have more dads too, right? Like men, because men, like, it's a team effort, right? Both the men and the women are involved, and it's very difficult to go through something so challenging, right, without a partner, without support. And for a man, literally the best gift you can give your woman is this transformational experience. You will literally change your woman into a better woman, and your woman will love you more for it, right? Right.
Sure. Yeah, but I would say that this event, if you're a woman who has already had a traumatic hospital birth experience, and you're curious about home birth, or even if you're a woman who has struggled with fertility and you're trying to get pregnant, this event is for you. We're going to be discussing all things natural and holistic, from everything from fertility, the beginning, all the way until the fourth trimester, the postpartum period. So, really, anyone who's interested in home birth and wants to learn more, or the natural aspects of birth, and has discovered that there is another way other than the traditional narrative of the hospital birth, then this event is definitely for you. And that goes for the women giving birth, and then also their husbands or partners as well, if they want to learn more.
Right. And you made a very important point. The purpose of this conference and this symposium is to walk you through the whole process, right? So we're going to address your questions at every step of the way. You're going to be able to ask questions, and get answers from professionals who've been in this industry and are holistic minded. They, you know, they think more about herbs versus what sort of interventions in the hospital can you get, right? Because a lot of the complications of birth can be addressed early on by prevention, right? And
well, and furthermore, I think, sorry, this is going back to the previous topic that I think I missed, but you guys were talking about the C-section rates and all of that.
Right.
Actually, you know, most of those interventions given at the hospital actually lead to the C-section.
Right.
The interventions are kind of create a cascade effect. So they're actually creating more issues in the hospital. But
yeah, and not even just the C-sections, but also like using anesthesia, right, during birth, and you know, you're supposed to, your body needs to feel sensations to push the baby out, right? And when you numb it with anesthesia, your body gets confused because there's a feedback loop going on, right? It's like your nerves to your brain, to your nerves to your brain going on, and that's the feedback loop that helps your body push and move the birth process forward. So if you numb yourself, right, you're gonna mess with that process completely. And then it gets stuck, and then you're like, okay, well, I guess the only way is to get vacuumed out, which I'm like, I can't even imagine what that looks like, a baby vacuum, and how traumatic that can be for the baby too, right? Because the baby's feeling all that stuff, and it's already being birthed into a new environment. I mean, just think how traumatic that would be for a baby to get sucked out head first, right, from this like warm place. I mean, it's just terrible to think of, you know, and that's the kind of trauma that stays with you for your entire life, right? And people, it's subconscious. No, you don't know it's there.
Well, you know, it's so interesting. I've heard, you know, that the last thing you want, like when if you're in the hospital and they're trying to give you an IV, you've got to say no IV, because they will either try to give you something to induce they will try to get that baby out of you. And if they start messing with you with drugs, that's what, like you said, causes, it's that thing that causes, how does the baby and the mom's bodies work together to make it happen? And if they give you something to make you not feel it, but like you said, the baby's feeling everything. When they come out and their heads are bruised from the birth canal, they've been feeling that. I need to feel it too.
Right.
And the magic that happens after the baby crowns and you get this psychedelic rush of hormones that you never get at any other time in your life. If you shut that off, what is the baby not getting? We don't even know.
Right.
And so there's all that intervention does. It does cause problems, and it causes things to stop. And so just giving birth naturally and trusting that process, and also knowing, I think that, you know, because we have this fear that's been programmed into us, knowing that you're however many minutes from the hospital, should you need to go, you know, and allowing these professionals, these women who
they live, breathe, and sleep this stuff. They, like, you know, you wonder. I mean, I wondered what a midwife did, right? I didn't know. And then once we met, you know, Stephanie, our midwife, and I just saw her life, like her entire life is literally about birth, and she's on call 24/7. You know, even at 1 or 2 a.m. in the night. And I mean, these people work insanely hard, and they dedicate their lives to this, and for a reason, right? And I want to touch on what you said just a few minutes ago, where you said, you know, like you will have to refuse these things, right? The hospital will come and offer you all these things, and you have to refuse it. You know, and when it's just you and your partner, right, that are there in the hospital and giving birth, and you have to refuse all these things, and you don't even know what they're saying, right? Half the time they're spitting some jargon at you, you know. That's when a midwife is extremely valuable, right? Because when you hire a midwife and say you're going to the hospital, if you're going to the hospital, you better have a freaking midwife, right? Because, like, would you walk into a courtroom without a lawyer?
Or a doula.
Right? Like, would you walk into a legal battle without a lawyer? Why would you go to a hospital without a midwife, right? Who will advocate for you, is educated on all these things, and can help you make the right decision when you're not, because you're in a state of emotional.
It's a very vulnerable time.
It is. And just when you just think about how vulnerable you are in the hospital and what they're doing, they're literally taking advantage of you.
Well,
right?
and I also want to come back to the fact that is as frustrated as people who like us are with the birth industry, thank God it's there. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's like, you know, there was a movie, I want to say Ricky Lake made it, called The Business of Being Born. Did y'all see that or hear about that? It's getting old now.
We haven't watched it.
15, such a good movie. I highly recommend it. And it's about the birth industry and how it is not about empowering women. And this is the most empowering moment of your life, these few hours. And how it's just been snatched away. And so I love that. This is my favorite. This is one of my very favorite topics. Everything that y'all are talking about, from conception, trying to conceive, having a natural, healthy pregnancy. If you have a healthy pregnancy where you're getting plenty of nutrition, plenty of exercise, plenty of water, plenty of sunshine, if you're getting a healthy pregnancy, so many things happen. First of all, you probably are going to have a very healthy birth. And second of all, I just lost my train of thought. Yes, my midwife is convinced that 40 weeks is not the typical gestation. She said when she makes sure that her girls are getting plenty of vitamins, plenty of everything I just said, exercise, that placenta and that baby stay for 42 weeks. So they start taking babies early, inducing them, taking them by C-section, because they think, oh, the baby's been in there too long. And she's like, that's not what I find. When we do it totally naturally, the babies actually stick around a little longer and cook a little longer in there and get more. So there's so much we don't know. And I just, if you're a birth professional that's on the Western medicine side of things and you are hearing this, I don't want you to feel berated by people like us. We want you on our side. We want you in there advocating. We want the doctors and the nurses and people going, no, she wants it natural, let her have it. But they need this education too. So you said that this symposium is only the beginning. What do you see this symposium leading to? Could there be one in every city every year? You know, every 5 years from now, what is the natural birth symposium looking like?
Yeah, great question. And this is something that's still a little fluid for us, but we definitely see there being a second symposium with the amount of support that we receive from the community on this topic. I definitely see there being a lot of incentive to move this forward, right? Because it's empowering women. It's also reinvigorating the birth community. What happened in COVID, right, with all the shutdowns and everything, it really threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans, right? There used to be a gathering of midwives. There used to be a lot of networking events. And now where a lot of people are just stuck, you know, without events to go to or without networking, proper networking, and even, you know, birth professionals are being challenged, you know, finding like other people to pass off things to or refer to, right? Because you need this whole community of people who do different things to work to support the women who are giving birth, right? The chiropractors, the people who do placenta processing, right? Midwives, doulas, you know, mental, psychological support, you know. So there needs to be a network of these people. And for a new mom coming into this, right, you need that network to support you. Usually you go to a hospital and then they refer you to this doctor, the hospital has all the doctors, right? Well, why not break your dependence on the hospital and create your own network of people that you trust, right? You know, that's the other key too, is like, this is providing you with choice now, with the freedom of choice. And also to know that you don't have to depend on a hospital, right? Because sometimes in the hospital, like you're waiting to be induced or something like that, and they say, oh, we're at capacity, so you're just gonna have to wait, right? Or your doctor who was going to help deliver your baby is like, oh, sorry, I'm out on vacation. Well, how about this doctor? I trust him, he's my friend. And you're like, I don't know this doctor. I've been working with you forever, and now you're off on vacation. I mean, because they the way that they have the way that they run the medical industry, right, is these doctors see tens or hundreds of patients in a week, right? And they're exhausted. I mean, just imagine what they go through, and they're working like 10 to 12-hour shifts. I mean, of course they're exhausted. Of course they don't want to deal with this, right? And why not get a midwife who will cost probably just as much as a doctor, and maybe even save you more money on it, and be completely dedicated to you 24/7, right? And who can answer almost every question, advocate for you. Like, she's literally on your side, and you're being protected. So there's just so much this conference has to offer. So that's where I see this conference going, right? Is to provide women that network, that option, also a place to discuss it openly, right? Because now, God forbid, if we discuss it on Instagram and Facebook, right?
Oh, really?
Then,
I don't do Instagram and Facebook. I mean, I'm on there, but I don't do it. So you can't.
We don't either.
About natural birth?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that you can't say, right? Or they will censor you. So, and then on top of that, so with there being multiple conferences, hopefully in the future, we will also plan to offer, products and possibly product and services through our platform, right? So getting education, right? If you want to know more from a birth professional on a certain topic, right? We will plan to offer all those things on the website, and make it cost a reasonable amount, right? Because that's how much really all these things should cost. So
okay, so if someone's interested, there's still places available in the symposium. I'm assuming you just kind of came up with it a few weeks ago. I mean, I just found out. How can people buy tickets or find out more?
Right. So visit www.sacred-birth.com. So sacred-birth.com. That's where you'll find information on the event. That's where you can find, like a teaser video that will explain a lot of the things that we want to convey in this symposium. You can buy tickets on there. We have a small window of time for just early bird tickets that will end in January. And then once January happens, we will start rolling out our standard tickets, which will cost more. So we've also locked down some speakers that we admire, who are local to the Austin area and the Central Texas area. And it's the whole process of planning this symposium has been such a blessing and such an amazing experience, just to connect with these professionals. So sacred-birth.com, that's where you'll find most of the information. You can connect with us on Telegram at Sacred Birth Symposium. You can find us on Instagram at Mohenjo Bath, which is actually our parent company. So we also create holistic herbal, organic bath and body care products. And that's how we got our start in the holistic industry, and then decided to launch this symposium. And then on Facebook, you can also connect with us, but it's through Texas Wellness Events. So I highly recommend you join there if you have any of those platforms. We're also on an app called Float. So Float is a decentralized social media platform that's based on blockchain, and they're also against censorship. So highly recommend, if you're interested in that stuff, you can connect there as well on Float. So those are all the ways to connect with us, but the easiest way is definitely to visit the website, sacred-birth.com.
You can also sign up for email updates on the website and get direct updates that way. Yeah,
we're going to roll out our speakers and topics and workshops and all that stuff. Like, all the best stuff is literally yet to come. So
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of my audience is not in Central Texas. So I'm thinking that you're going to spark some people to want to perhaps almost follow in your footsteps and create something in their community. So if someone's interested in creating something similar in their community, can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we're happy to share all the things that we've learned, because I think that's the best way that we can inspire a lot of these people, right? Is to show them that, hey, just normal people like you can do this, you know? And I'm tired of hearing the excuse of, oh, we just had a baby, so you know we can't do this stuff. Well, we literally just had our baby 5 months ago, and we've been planning this symposium the whole time, right? So
and doing other things.
Yeah, and doing other things, and it's because we have good teamwork, right? We work as a team and we work together to take care of this baby.
An amazing baby who, I know she was fussy in the beginning, but that's because there was time and too much going on for her to fall asleep, which is why I left the room. But having a natural pregnancy and a natural birth, I truly believe has led to her just being such an easy, if you will, baby, you know, for us.
It's been easier, yeah.
Everywhere we go, every time we're, you know, hanging out with a group of people or whatever, they're like, your baby's so chill. Is she always still? Oh, it's the second time we're seeing her, so it wasn't an anomaly.
Yeah. But see, part of that is just breastfeeding, which you're doing right now. When you have a fussy baby, pretty much they want the boob. And I feel like my children, I breastfed my first one for 2 years and my second one for 3 years. Some people do it longer than that. You know, it's totally a personal preference. But it is the greatest thing ever. That's what they want. It's not just the milk, it's the connection to that which is their world. Their world consists of just you too. And you know what? That makes me think, when you were talking about the community, the Austin community is amazing. Back in the day, 12 years ago, we had it was a nurse in, back when they were doing those flash mobs, when that was a thing. People remember that. We went and sat on the steps of the Capitol, hundreds and hundreds of women and their husbands, and all breastfed their babies at the same time. It was awesome.
That's
awesome. There really is a huge naturally inclined community, and this probably exists all over. And for us to just be talking about it and inspiring people, and you know, that breastfeeding thing, that's the kind of thing your midwife, your doctor doesn't teach you how to latch on right after birth, and they take your baby from you. They take your baby, and God knows what they're doing back there with your baby for hours. When at home, they just plop the baby right onto your chest, and instantly, within 3 or 4 minutes of birth, y'all are kind of dealing with the aftermath and what's the placenta doing, and there's a cord and all this. The baby starts nursing instantly. It's this bond and connection that's the opposite of trauma. What's the opposite of trauma? Like,
and then it's pleasure, joy,
yes. And so, and you have this bond instantly, and there's so much to the experience and the community that you guys are going to start pulling out of the woodwork, because I think that deep inside our nature, women, we have a natural inclination, and we know that something's not right. It doesn't feel right when you get wheeled through a hospital. That doesn't feel right. You know, and we're trusting our intuition more. So I applaud you two so much for getting this going. And what I wish for you is to keep your momentum up. You know, I was so passionate about this when I wrote my book, which covers all of these topics. Like I tried to cram everything my midwives taught me, from conception to circumcision and the question of whether to do it or not, and cloth diapers and everything afterwards, right? The lactation, the breastfeeding, all of it into that book called Birthright. And once my kids were toddlers and we started, and then growing up a little bit more into the homeschooling and stuff, since I had trouble, I don't think I tried that hard, but I think I thought it was going to be too hard to reach women and men in that window of time when they need to be reached.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too late if they've already started in with an OBGYN and they're already going that route, you know,
Yeah.
they've already chosen the day that the baby's going to be born.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't reach them then. So I wish for you to keep the passion going. I'm assuming maybe y'all are going to have more babies, so you keep it going. I mean, I'm past that. And so, but when I talk to you about this, I just feel the excitement of it lighting up in me. And for humanity needs to get back to nature and being a mammal and giving birth.
Right.
It's so great.
And start taking responsibility, right? Like that's ultimately what has happened is we've given away the responsibility of taking care of ourselves. Granted, for very good reasons, right? Because now, like, we have to work harder to make a life for ourselves, and we have to work on 2 incomes, and it's just mind-blowing once you go down the rabbit hole and you start looking and questioning everything, and you realize we really do need to go back and take responsibility and take action, right? Stop being passive, take action, do something, start something, that's the best way that we can start to change and start to shift things in this direction. It's not waiting for someone to do it for you, not waiting for some idol or some politician or something in the cloud. Like, we have to make the change ourselves. We literally are the change. Like, we have the power to do this, and it just requires you taking steps. And yes, it can be scary, it can be hard, it can be frightening, it can be challenging, but it makes life worth living, right? It's totally worth it.
Oh, you are speaking my language. Yes, it got.
And you were way ahead of your time 12 years ago, right? You were way ahead of the curve, and now a lot of us are just catching up, Betsy. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I remember my midwife saying, I said something about her delivering my baby. She was like, "Oh, no, I'm not delivering this baby. You are."
Yeah, right.
And doctors want to do it for you. They want, and bless their hearts, they want to take your pain away. They want to do it for you, but they're taking away that huge rite of passage and your responsibility. Like you just said, if we can take responsibility for everything and walk into the unknown, we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know what the future holds. Why not jump in and create something? Like you said, let's do this. It is to us. We are
it is
waiting for.
Right. And it is safe, right? It's proven to be safe. So
it's safer.
It's safer, right? And I definitely, I definitely feel it's kind of a weird thing when someone says, wow, you're so brave to.
Oh yeah, because to me it's scary to go to a hospital.
It's scary, I don't want to go to a hospital, because just a chance, like, you're adding additional risk on top of the risk you already have.
It's a slippery slope too. I mean, if you're gonna go to the hospital, like in the film Orgasmic Birth, it was a gentleman who worked for the CDC in the, I don't know, whatever their birth sector of the CDC is. And he said, if you offer someone candy over and over and over again, they're going to take it. And to women who go to the hospital, that's what that is to them. Someone is offering to take the pain away, and they're scared. So if you keep tempting them, they're going to take it. And that's the slippery slope that could possibly lead to, and does lead to, 1 out of every 3 women in the hospital getting a C-section.
Yeah. And it may seem like we're demonizing the hospital and the medical industry and all that stuff, and maybe in some way, we are for the people who are making the decisions that are higher up, but for the people working it, right? The nurses, the doctors, the people who want to do good in other people's lives, like, I commend you. And I ask you to just think, right, and question, where did you learn all this stuff from, right? Like, maybe there is a better way, because that's what science is, right? Like, science is always questioning, science is always evolving and changing. And if you're telling me that I can't ask questions and that you can't ask questions and everything is already set in stone, ready for you to just read a book and pick it up and follow instructions, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're wrong, right? Like you need to go and question, and you know what, you can prove me wrong. I welcome you to do that, right? Because I want to know if I'm wrong, right? I want to know. I want to know the truth. That at the end of the day, that's all, like that should matter, right? And there's lots of doctors and nurses who have jumped ship and gone the holistic path and found answers that they thought were impossible, and that's personally what I experienced too. So all this is coming from personal experience, right? We're not here to make statements and that we can't back out. Everything we've mentioned is based on either data that we've gotten or personal experience, and we want you to have your own personal experience. And I believe that the human body is amazing and powerful and can heal anything given the right circumstances. And I experienced that with my eczema too, right? I've always identified with always having asthma and eczema and all that stuff, but I realized like that's because I was asking the wrong people. Once I started asking holistic doctors and naturopaths about this stuff, I mean, they start giving me answers that no one could give me. It was incredible. So I'm a truth seeker, right? I question and seek the answers, and we should all be doing that rather than just following orders.
Yep. And trusting that our bodies, these incredible things that we were given, know what to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in birth, that's such a huge part of it. Trusting our bodies to give birth, and they don't need any intervention.
Right.
I mean, it's possible that you do, it does happen, but the vast majority of the time you can do it. And to go through that, you guys, I am so excited about your symposium, and I'm so excited about your passion for this topic. And so I will post everything that all the ways to get in touch with you, your Telegram float, all that in the show notes of this podcast.
Sounds
and
great.
So keep in touch. I know that you're on Freedom Junkie Radio on Telegram. So keep us posted when you come out with the speakers and topics and anything that can inspire. I know y'all are doing this from a place of selflessness, of really desiring for humanity to heal and to go in a positive direction of freedom and responsibility. So in any way that I can help you to do that, just let me know. And because that's exactly what I'm doing too. So
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Betsy, for everything you're doing.
So much.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much. So Freedom Junkies, we're going to have to call. We know what, we got to end this. Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Anything else you'd like to say that we haven't covered?
I feel like I've been talking too much.
We're supposed to be talking. Yay.
I just want to say that, for me personally, having a natural birth was the most transformative and empowering moment of my entire life. I mean, as you've been saying, birthright, I know the title of the book is kind of twofold, but it's a woman's rite of passage. And I truly feel sad that has been stolen from so many women, and that they've had a traumatic experience in some way, if that's what they experienced giving birth in a hospital. And I just want more women to have that empowering experience, because what I've noticed since entering into this world, natural birth, is that there are so many women who are so fired up about birth. I mean, eat, drink, and sleep it, so passionate, just obsessed with it, which is how I've become. And it's because that's for a reason, it's the most amazing experience of your entire life. And I just want every woman to have that,
Here. I agree with you 100%. It was a part of my life that's starting to, fade into the background of my life. I'm looking forward to having grandkids, a lot, but I agree with you 100%. It was the most transformative time in my life, the pregnancy and birth. And if I had known that it was going to be that way, I'd have had 10 kids. I would have started at 18. But no, I fell into that programming of wait, have kids later, enjoy your life, party, do all this. It's like, no, I just read one the other day. Find that partner and have your babies early, because the earlier you do it, the longer you get to enjoy them. And that actually took me a second. I was like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, because you're going to live a certain amount of time and you can live with them. You get to live with their, it's the most, having a family and falling in love with the people around you is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
No one told me that. I feel ripped off. I didn't have my first baby till I was 34. And I would have done it when I was 24. I would have done it when it's the best thing ever. And the whole process of natural pregnancy and birth, it's alchemical. It shifts you as a woman that you've gone from maiden to mother. And I'm on my way to crone. And it is something we should never have stolen. I think that there could be really something to the spiritual aspect of taking that from women on purpose, because then we don't step into our power. Because when I did that, my husband was like, dude, I will dig post holes. I will connect Blackwater. You do that. That for me, witnessing what I did, this spiritual, there's 6 of you in the room, and then suddenly there's 7. It's the most amazing moment of birth. And it's even more spiritual for the other people because it's so physical as the actual mother doing it. I thought it would be real spiritual giving birth. No, I went into my warrior. My warrior came out. It was like, no, this isn't spiritual. This is real. This is physical. We're doing this.
Well, one of our friends said that the process of giving birth, they did some measurement or something like that, and it's as much stress on the body as a Tour de France. It's like one of the most physical events anyone could ever do, and that's what every woman goes through. It's a 9-month Tour de France.
We're all badasses. We're complete badasses, and for that to get taken, I'm exactly with you there, Alison. 100%. We need to bring that back. And
well, Alison has a theory on your chakras.
Oh yeah. I'm working on an ebook that I'm gonna give out for free, but just about an experience that I feel I had throughout the pregnancy and then culminating at the birth that I've just never heard anyone talk about before. And I felt that my chakras were being ignited one by one, starting with the root chakra and then culminating with the crown chakra at the birth. And that starts off, with what is known as the nesting phase. That's a very root chakra sort of situation you're in, where you're gathering information, you're setting up your home to make sure that everything is prepared and that you feel safe and secure. And those are all very root chakra oriented feelings. And that's how every pregnancy starts off, and then you were talking about the I don't think the word you used was hallucinogenic, but what was the word you used?
Psychedelic.
Thank you. Psychedelic. I mean, it can be a very psychedelic experience. You're out of body almost when you're giving birth. It is a very intense experience.
Well, your brain produces
the hormones and chemicals that your body is producing to help you through that, which interventions can interfere with, that natural process.
Your body already has natural anesthesia.
Right. and that is how, birth is intended to be. And it can be a pleasurable experience. Some women have a pleasurable experience with their birth. It's largely the conditioning and brainwashing, if you will, about birth and the fear that's been instilled in women throughout our entire lives about how painful and traumatic birth is, and the women screaming in the movies and all of that, that on a subconscious level really does create fear in women. And that is what, can create a painful experience for you, is your belief that it's going to be painful.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many, these for people that are just now kind of learning a little bit about this, like you said, there is so much to learn. There's water birth, there's birth with dolphins, there's, yeah, I mean, there's so many things. And during your pregnancy, there's so many things you can do to ensure that you have the easiest pregnancy, from visualizing. I remember listening to these meditations where I visualized an easy birth, easy. And you can do these things where you take olive oil, and your partner has to do it actually, and like helps to soften the perineum so that and there's so many things that we don't know. And that's why I was so passionate. I wrote a book. I'm like, 98% of women, 97, whatever women go to the hospital, don't have a clue about any of this stuff.
Right.
And I wrote my book for the people who were planning to do a hospital birth. It's like, look, you need to know all this stuff, because there's so many things that the doctors don't even know. So anyway, we could go on. And I'm just so grateful to you both for bringing out this topic out to the surface again, and keep us in the loop. And I just wish you blessings, and I wish you blessings into the future in this seed that you're planting, that is from a mighty, mighty tree, and they're out there. And I wish this for humanity as well. So I'm grateful for you coming on Freedom Junkie Radio, and yeah, blessings on you, your family, and everything that you're doing and bringing into the world.
Thank you, Betsy. Yeah, we'll need all the good vibes we can get for the symposium. And, you know, like, I mean, we're at a point where we're just, even if no one comes to the symposium, it'll still be an amazing thing that we did. And I honestly don't think I think it'll be packed. So I really hope to see you and all the people there, right? I think it'll be an amazing experience for everyone.
Okay. And do you still have room for some speakers if somebody's interested in contacting you for that?
Yeah, we're still locking down the rest of our speakers. We do have some slots available that we're looking to fill.
Yeah, and waiting to hear back from a couple more people, but we're getting close to being full on our speakers.
But definitely the best way to contribute is just to help promote the event. You know, just talk about it, tell your friends. And if you feel so inclined, you know, purchase a ticket and come join us in person, because we'd love to see you in person. And it's being held at Casa de Luz, which is like an oasis in the Austin city. You know, it's beautiful, it's spiritual, it's chill, honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better place to be in. We have such a good relationship with them, and they make amazing food too. So
yeah, and I do have one more thing to say. You know, for those people who are maybe pregnant and are, you know, planning a hospital birth, it is never too late to change your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be going into labor and say, you know what, I don't want to go to the hospital. I trust my body. I'm going to do it here. You know, I mean, that's a bit extreme. Like, you do want to feel prepared, but I just want to like mention that it is possible to change course, even if you've started off on that path. And so, I mean, if you're hearing about this event and you know someone who's pregnant, you know someone who's trying to get pregnant, definitely spread the word. We'd love to share this information with you. And that is also the reason, like, why we've culminated all this information into one place, is the same reason you wrote that book, because there's so many things to touch on with the whole experience, from conceiving to giving birth to postpartum, you know, and it's hard to find all of that information.
Right.
It's a lot of time spent researching, which is great if you love doing research like me, but if that's daunting to you and you'd rather find it all in one place, you know, check out the Birthright book, or come to this event in person and get your questions answered in person. And
you don't have to do it alone. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, you don't, as a mother, you don't have to do this by yourself. Like, you can lean on other mothers who have gone through the process, and it's also good to have these discussions with other moms. You know, like, in what place can you have a discussion with other moms about home birth and like how amazing it can be for your baby, right? Like, so we're creating this community from the ground up, and you know, we want you we want this to be for you. Well, we're creating it for you, you know.
Awesome, guys. All right. Well, thanks again. And I'm going to sign off, Freedom Junkies. Thank you, Alison and Nelson. And till next time, ciao.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Betsy.
I live better than a king ever did.